Should I share it now?
Yeah. 1 minute to go. Okay, lovely. Yeah, it's clear. Okay. Can I go to the first slide?
Yes.
So please, could you please mute your mic, Dr. Galam? Mute your mic, please. Okay, guys, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of English Language Center, University of Technology and Applied Sciences, Ibri, Oman, I would like to welcome you all to join today's webinar, Demystifying Digital Literacy, Autonomous Learning, by our guest speaker, Claire Siskin. And let me get close to her, introduce her to you. Okay. Claire is a consultant, teacher, trainer, and practitioner of computer-assisted language learning. She has 20 years of classroom experience as an instructor of ESL. She has strong interest in international education, has given presentations and workshops in over 24 countries. And for more information, I will share in the chat box, like www.idvista.com Claire. I will share it in the chat box so you can get more information about Claire. So welcome, Claire, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Faisal. I'm very happy to be here this morning. First of all, I wanted to tell you where I am. Okay, so where am I? I'm in the United States. I'm in the state of Pennsylvania, which is in the northeast of the United States. It's right under New York. Okay, this is my city, where the red circle is. My city is Pittsburgh. It's over in the southwest part of Pennsylvania. And here is a picture of my city. You can notice that it looks like a triangle because it's at the base of three rivers. And Pittsburgh is known as Three Rivers City because it has the three rivers. And we have over 700 bridges in my city. If you want to go anywhere, you usually have to cross a bridge to go there. Okay, now what about you? Where are you? Would you please type in the chat box where you are from? I notice we have a big variety of countries here today. So would you please type where you are right now? So I see Philippines, Oman, Bangladesh, Egypt. Okay, wow. Okay, I'm trying to see it. Okay. India, Lebanon, Jordan. Wow. Ecuador, Egypt, Ibri, Oman, Philippines. Wow. Algeria, Slovakia, Pakistan, Qatar, India, Bangladesh. Great. Another from India, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Okay, people are still coming in, I see. Okay. Brazil again. Okay. Gulshan area Gulshan, yeah, it must be Qatar. Okay, I'm probably not going to wait for all of them because we have a time limit here, but that's a very wide variety. Thank you.
I think you have over 100.
Oh, wow, yeah. Okay, I'm going to go on now, and we'll see later. Okay, now there are a couple of web pages for this session. You can write them down now if you have time. At the end of the session, I will paste these into the chat box. And I will speak very quickly in this session. So if you would like to have the PowerPoint, if you send me an email, I will be happy to email you a copy of the PowerPoint. And I'll give you that information at the end. Okay, now today I'm going to talk first about digital literacy, then about autonomous learning. Then I will make some suggestions for teachers, and then a very brief conclusion. And after that, we can have discussion and questions. Okay, so when I think of the term digital literacy, this is the reaction I have. The first time somebody asked me to speak on digital literacy was about 7 years ago. And my reaction was like this woman here. It was like, oh, what is that? I didn't know. I wasn't really sure what it was, even though I've been working in the field of CAL, computer assisted language learning, for many years. Okay, today it's really a thing. It's a popular term, and we often refer to digital literacies. So what do you think digital literacies are? In the chat box, what are digital literacies? Please put in the chat box what your idea of digital literacy or digital literacies is. What are they? See if we get some answers here. What are digital literacies? The chat box is silent. What are they? The ability to use digital devices, digi-devices, okay? The efficient use of technology, to be able to use technology. Somebody from Nepal. Using technology skills, ability to work and write on computers, to communicate through PC, laptop, and internet, online reading and listening, the ability to use IT tools for educational purposes. Techno-savvy, that's a good one. Okay, so I think you have a pretty good general idea of what they are. I'm going to move on now. I want to recommend a couple of books. If you have a lot of time and a good budget, you might want to get this book. By the way, I'm going to mention two books, and the information for these books is on the webpage, and I'll give you that link again at the end. There's a very good book, and this is directed toward English teachers, called Digital Literacies. It's by Dudney, Hockley, and Pegram. And it's a large book. It has a lot of activities for the classroom. It's rather expensive, but I think it's an excellent reference. At the other end of the scale, there is this book, Teaching Digital Literacies. This book is very good if you don't have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of money. It's a small book, and it just gives you the main points. It does have some ideas for classroom activities, but it gives you the main points about digital literacies. That book is also on the webpage. Okay, so here is Dudney, Hockley, and Pedram's definition. The individual and social skills need to effectively interpret, manage, share, and create meaning in the growing range of digital communication channels. Here is another definition by Joseph Colpert. The ability to select, use, evaluate technology based on its affordances, defined as perceived possibilities for activities that may contribute to the realization of someone's learning or teaching goals. I find those to be very comprehensive. Now I'm going to give you my definition. There it is. Being able to find, manipulate, create, and share stuff. That's my definition, which is quite a bit briefer. Okay, now you may have heard this term digital natives and digital immigrants, which was made popular by Mark Prinsky. Digital natives are the older people, the younger people rather, okay? Digital immigrants are the rest of us, people who were born before 1980. The idea being that these digital natives are very comfortable with technology and very good with technology and presumably better than older people, okay? This has turned out to be a myth. Since 2003, a lot of research has shown that that is a myth, okay? For example, in one study, only 23% of college students knew how to conduct a well-executed internet search. So this is an idea people have that younger people are much better at technology. It's not necessarily true. Okay, the current thinking is, yes, your students might seem comfortable with technology. That does not mean that they really know what they need to know. So we have to keep that in mind. Here's some examples of digital literacies. Print literacy, this would be knowing how to work with a book or printed material, a newspaper, for example. Texting literacy, how good are you at texting? Hypertext literacy, knowing when and how to click on links. Tagging literacy, we use tags a lot on Facebook and Twitter and other social media. Multimedia literacy, can you record and edit audio and video and graphics? Personal literacy, what about your personal information? Do you share and manipulate it in appropriate ways? Information literacy, can you find the information that you want to find? Gaming literacy, how good are you at playing games, for example? I personally am not very good at computer games. Mobile literacy, how good are you with tablets and smartphones? Intercultural literacy, somebody is saying, somebody over here is saying the screen is not visible. Faisal, can you see the screen?
I can see it. I can see it clearly.
Okay, somebody cannot. Okay, all right. Intercultural literacy, knowing how to operate in various cultures. Okay, very important when we're working on the internet. Participatory in literacy, can you participate effectively on the internet, for example? So these are different literacies that are under this umbrella of digital literacy. Okay, now digital literacy has to do with etiquette. In other words, when you send an email, is it polite, for example? Okay. Copyright, are you sharing things legally? Intellectual property, are you copying other people's work and using it as your own? Privacy, how much of your personal information should you be sharing on the internet, for example? Research skills, okay, finding things, for example. Dealing with large amounts of data. So all of these are new concerns that have to, so you see, literacy here is a lot more than just knowing how to operate the hardware and the software. Okay. Now, don't worry too much about this. I discovered when I started looking into this area of digital literacy, I was very worried and very nervous about it. You need to relax because you are already doing a lot of this, okay? I guess the issue here is making sure that your students are digitally literate. Okay, now, are you completely digitally literate? You yourself personally, do you think that you are completely digitally literate? I'm going to say probably not. And I'm not either, because technology is always changing. There are always new tools. So none of us really could ever know about any of this. I'll give you an example. This year during the pandemic, I have been giving a lot of webinars, and I've been using Zoom and Google Meet and Webinar Jam and Cisco WebEx, and I've used all of these tools a number of times, and I thought, okay, I'm getting pretty good at this. I know what to do. And then we get to Microsoft Teams and I'm, oh my God. And this is the first time I've used Microsoft Teams and it's really different. So in this case, I'm not really completely digitally literate. And thanks to Faisal, I can do this today. I must say Faisal is a very good teacher and he has been very patient with me. And for this, Faisal, shukran, thank you very much. I really appreciate all the help that you gave me. But it's just an example of how none of us can ever be completely digitally literate. Okay, now digital literacy, it used to be that we talked about computer literacy, and that was just operating the computer. And also another term that in English language teaching that we use is CALL. Okay, which is computer assisted language learning. Now, this does include computers and smartphones and tablets, because smartphones and tablets are really just small computers. So those are certainly included. And we have other acronyms that we use: CEL, ICT, TEL, MAL. So I'm sure you have seen some of these others before. Different countries tend to use different acronyms to describe it. I tend to use CALL. Okay, and digital literacy basically is, in general, very general terms, just knowing how to do things. Okay, CALL puts the focus on language learning. So you see, there is a great deal of overlap between these ideas, and because obviously you're not going to be able to use CALL if you're not digitally literate. So there is overlap in these terms, but they're not the same. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about autonomous learning. Okay, what is autonomous learning? Please put that in the chat box. What is your idea of what autonomous learning is? I'm watching the chat box. What is autonomous learning? To have the innate skills, taking charge of their learning, learning independently, learning by self, learning by one's own self, controlling their own learning, self-learning, self-dependent learning, learning without the help of a teacher, control their own learning activities, self-education of students, self-driven learning, learning by yourself. Those are nice definitions. Learning by yourself. Students learn by themselves. Learning with responsibility. Okay. Independent learning, individualization, students independent learning. Yes. I can see that most of you have a really good idea of what autonomous learning is. Good. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. Okay, we'll go on from here. So yeah, basically it's self-directed, independent learning. Learners take charge of their own learning. Learners are responsible for their own learning. Well, right now, a lot of us are teaching from a distance because of the coronavirus. And really, not a lot of us don't really like this very much. I personally prefer traditional classroom teaching, but we really don't have any choice. Our students have to do a lot by themselves, whether we like it or not. They have to become autonomous learners. Okay, so I've mentioned this term CALL before. We could also say ICT, TEL, or SMALL. SMALL, by the way, is social media assisted language learning. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the advantages that technology or CALL can bring if your students are going to be autonomous learners. So the pluses, here are some of the benefits or advantages. Okay, one is that students can repeat and review. Computers are really good at repeating, so are smartphones and tablets, okay? You know this Latin proverb, repetitio et mater studiorum. Repetition is the mother of learning. And you cannot ask a language teacher to repeat something 5,000 times, but a computer can do that. So repetition is definitely an advantage. Okay, students can learn at their own pace. Some students can be learning more slowly, and they may need more repetition. Other students may want to go a little bit faster. Okay, direct access to authentic materials, newspapers, menus from restaurants, train schedules, shopping websites. In other words, sources that are not made for language learning, but are just made for native speakers. The students get direct access to that. Also, opportunities to use English outside of class through social media, another great advantage. One goal is that learners are not just consuming, but they're also producers and generators of language. And technology makes this much easier. For example, Google Docs is only one example. Students can create their own text and share them, which is what they're doing in social media. They're creating a text for themselves and sharing it with other people. Okay, all kinds of feedback, okay? Software or instructional software websites offer, that's a mistake, by the way, it should say software instructional websites. Software should not be repeated there. It offers interactive language practice through feedback. It may not be the best feedback, but it's some type of feedback. Other advantages are linked definitions. Students can click and get a definition. They can get a translation. They can also get some kind of tracking of their progress. And was it correct? How many were correct, etc. Those are some advantages. Okay. They may get a sense of confidence. I can do this by myself. That's another advantage. They're not, in other words, they're not depending on the teacher for everything. Okay. There are also some negatives, I think. I think it's important to be, as teachers, we are very aware of these negatives. We need to make the students aware of the negatives as well. Okay. A lot of materials are just not very good. They're poorly designed. They may frustrate our students. There are a lot of free materials on the internet. They may not be the best. They might be of low quality. They might have distracting ads. They may waste our students' time. If you know, everybody wants free things. People are saying to me, give me something free, 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 free. Well, if you give your students materials that are not good and the students don't learn from them, it really doesn't matter if they're free because they're wasting their time. So we have to, when we look at the price of something, we have to consider the student's time as one of the costs. Okay, and students don't always choose the best materials. We want them to be autonomous learners and do things on their own. They don't always know what the best materials are. That's the role of the teacher. That's where the teacher comes in. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, authentic materials can be disadvantageous if they don't understand them, if they're incomprehensible. It's very demotivating. If you give a student a paragraph with 500 words and they don't understand 200 words, they're not going to learn very much. Okay, teachers need to curate the materials. They need to select the best materials. Okay, now everybody loves multimedia. I love multimedia, but it does not guarantee better learning. Just because you have a video, just because you have audio or pictures or translations or whatever, it does not mean that the students are going to learn. It does not mean that students are going to use all of these benefits. Okay, it may be very distracting. If you give them too many stimuli, they may be very distracted, and learners may not take advantage of all of these benefits as well. So just because something is multimedia doesn't mean that it is good. Okay, information overload is a big problem for us teachers. It's also a problem for students. They may feel overwhelmed if they get too much information. Feedback in call may not be helpful. If they click the answer is C and the computer says, yes, that's correct, maybe they were guessing. This does not mean that they have learned anything. You don't know if they have learned anything or not because there's no explanation. Maybe they took a lucky guess. So feedback is wonderful if it helps the students, but it's not always helpful. Okay, I'm going to make some suggestions now, okay? Now, these are some suggestions for teachers for encouraging learner autonomy. And you can ignore them, okay? They're my suggestions. Maybe they will not work in your situation. You are the teacher, you are the professional, and you have to decide if my suggestions are useful for you. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see. Okay, in order to promote learner autonomy, we have to give students choices. Instead of saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, we need to say, do this or do this. Give them some choices. If they have choices, they will have a sense of freedom. Okay, they will never be completely free as long as they're students, but they will have more freedom than if you tell them what to do every step of the way. Okay, autonomous doesn't have to mean alone, okay? I gave a talk on that a couple of weeks ago, okay? Social interaction is still very important. Language is communication, and social interaction is part of that. So the use of social media, the use of interaction among the learners is very important. So just because they're working autonomously does not mean that they have to be working alone. They could be working with others as well. That's an important part of learning a language, I believe. Okay, now I talked about curation a minute ago, okay? We have to curate online materials for our students. Our students, as I said before, students don't always know which materials are the best. Curation means to collect the good stuff. We all know that there is a lot of information, a lot of websites, things on the internet that are not useful, that may be a waste of our students' time. So we have to do some curation and make suggestions. I have done a little curation for you. I've made a web page called Study English by Yourself. I will give you this link again at the end of this session, okay? And this is my curation. It's my selection of materials that I think would be good for self-study. That, okay, now what you need to do, if you want to suggest some materials for your students, go to that page and see which materials would be good for your students. All of them are free. All of these links are for websites that will not cost any money, and you don't have to register. You don't have to have a login or a password or anything like that. However, not all these materials will be useful for all students. Some of them are very easy. Some of them are for low-level English. Some of them are more advanced. There are materials at different levels. So it will be your job to go and look at these and see if any of them will be useful for you or for your students. And then you could just recommend. If your students are advanced, you could just give them this page. If your students are not advanced, don't give them this page, but you go and curate or select the materials that you think would be most useful. Okay, so I think teachers have to help students to take advantage of the benefits of online learning. We all know there are a lot of disadvantages to online learning. We've discovered that this year, but there are some benefits. We have to help students find those benefits and take advantage of them. Okay, one suggestion, and this is for this is a suggestion for people who are teaching online. If you're working online, don't try to do everything as a synchronous classroom. Synchronous means all of us are together at the same time. This webinar right now is synchronous because all of you are connected we are all connected at the same time. Tools like Zoom, Google Meet, these are synchronous tools. So you need to, this is fine. This is a good medium of communication, but you also should give your students some assignments that can be done offline. In other words, asynchronously, when we're not all together. Yeah, yes, I will post the websites at the end of the session. I'll post all these websites in the chat box. Okay, you also, if possible, use a learning management system, LMS, such as Canvas, Moodle, Google Classroom, Edmodo, which is completely free. If your school doesn't have an LMS, you can go by yourself and get an account on Edmodo. It's completely free, and that way you can give your students some separate assignments and they will be able to work more independently or more autonomously. Okay, in other words, don't just say write a paragraph on topic X. It's better to say write a paragraph on X, Y, or Z. In other words, give your students some choices. The more choices you give them, the more autonomous they are. Even better if you can get them to interact with their classrooms. Write the paragraph, now comment on 3 of your classmates' paragraphs. Go back after you write the paragraph for which they selected the topic, go back and make comments, and then other teachers can make comments on those comments, etc. So this is just one idea. There are many ways that you can use a learning management system to allow your students to work more autonomously. Okay, there's a discussion board. In all of those LMSs, there's a discussion board. You can encourage students to help one another. I started using an LMS about 20 years ago, I think. It was called Blackboard, I think. And I put a discussion board. I said, this is an area where you can go and ask me questions. But you know what happened? I was not there 24 hours a day. Sometimes I was not there. So a student would put a question and other students would answer the question. So encourage them to interact among themselves. Many times, if one student does not know the answer, another student in the class would be able to answer the question of another classmate. That way, they were learning independently and helping one another. And also, I was doing less work. It's always good if we can find a way for a teacher to do less work, right? I think that's a good idea. Okay, now for online discussions, you can have online discussions, but you can give students some options, give them some choices. For example, what about the requirements? What are those going to be? How should you reply? On something like Moodle, students can reply with a text, or they can reply with an audio file, okay, or they can reply, they could even reply with a video. So you could give them some choices as to how they're going to reply. Discussion prompts, in other words, you instead of just saying go to here and discuss topic A, you can give them a choice. Say, do you want to discuss A, B, or C, or D? And give them a choice, or have them decide what the topic's going to be. You can also have discussions that are synchronous, I mean, everybody discussing at the same time, as in a group chat, or asynchronous, which means one person puts a comment at 2 p.m., another student answers at 2:30, another student answers at 3 p.m. In other words, not everybody is answering at exactly the same time. So you can give your students choices and ask them, how do you want to do this? What is the most convenient way for you to participate depending on your lifestyle? Okay, now autonomous learners need to be able to make wise choices. They make choices, but you want them to make good, intelligent choices. This is where critical thinking is so important. So go out on the internet and look for a webinar on critical thinking. There are many of them. I think I've seen 5 or 6 this week, because if your students are going to be good, independent, autonomous learners, they need to use critical thinking skills. I'm not going to go into that here because I don't have time, but it's a very important aspect of autonomous learning. Okay, have students reflect on their own learning. Okay, have them write reports about how they are doing. Have them keep a learner diary. Have them evaluate their own progress. In other words, you can evaluate their progress. How do they think they're doing? Get their opinion on that. Tell students to take risks. I think students who are not good language learners are students who are shy or afraid. They don't want to write. They don't want to speak. They might be afraid to take risks. So tell your students not to worry about making mistakes. It's part of language learning. If you listen to a small child learning the first language, you can see they make a lot of mistakes, and they don't worry about that. Okay, so my conclusion is just one slide. Okay, in order to be successful autonomous learners, it's more important than ever that our students have digital literacy skills. So we need to foster and support those to the best we can. As teachers, we have a responsibility to see if this happens. If we don't do it, who is going to do it? I think the responsibility lies with us. Okay, so thank you for your attention. And here are the links that I'm going to give you. And I'm going to go ahead and paste those into the chat window. And Faisal, let's see. Here are the links.
Do you want to share them?
I shared them already. I'm also, if you want the PowerPoint.
Yeah, sure. You will send it to me, and then I will email everything.
Now, for the PowerPoint, I want them to ask me individually if they want it. I don't want to send it to everybody, but there it is. The cost of the PowerPoint is only $2,000. I'm joking. No cost. I'm happy to send that to you for free. Okay, so now you have the 3 links. Are they in the chat box? I don't see them anymore, but they're there somewhere. Are they there?
Okay, I think that you share your email address.
Yes, I cannot see them because it's scrolling very fast, but somewhere it's there. So shall I unshare my screen? Okay. So that's 33 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So now if they would like to ask questions, do you want them to put questions in the chat box or what?
Okay. Thank you very much for your informative, amazing, practical session. Now, guys, if you have questions, please, you can raise your hand. and you can, after that, we'll call your name and unmute yourself. And I will share the feedback link in the chat box just in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
And I think, my moderators, my colleagues, Michelle and Muhammad will help me. If there are any questions, you can have it from the chat box. I think there is a hand. Can you see the hand raised? There is one hand raised, Rohan. Can you see it clear? Rohan?
Hello. Hello, good
Rohan,
evening.
yeah, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So my question would be, because I'm a special education teacher actually, so I would like to know what tips can you give to special education teachers like me to really engage children with special needs in the
I
digital learning?
I think it depends on what their special needs are. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
very
well,
general question. I
yeah,
I had
maybe mostly behavioral issues like ADHD and autism.
Yeah. I gave a session one time for children who were autistic, autism, who
Yes,
had
yeah.
autism, and I was amazed. They were making videos with webcams, and I was amazed at how creative they were, and how I had my narrow ideas of what I wanted them to do, but I discovered that their ideas were better than my ideas because they had so much imagination and creativity. So, this is not my area, but I would say give them a lot of opportunities to communicate and have them record audio, have them record video, uh, and have them share that. There's something, it isn't just creating multimedia, but sharing it with an audience that I think it causes students to want to perform very well and to want to say things and do things correctly. So from my experience in this area is very limited, but I would say that give them opportunities to communicate.
All right, that's great. Thank you very much. One more question. Can I ask
Sure.
one last? Okay, so of course, as learners, young learners, they have screen time preferred.
Yes.
So, can you elaborate or say something about it? The screen time of young learners?
I think they should have less screen time than adults. I don't think anybody should be looking at Zoom for 10 hours a day. Right now, whether they're young or old, right now in the United States, a lot of people are doing that. They're spending 10 hours a day looking at Zoom and looking at video conferencing. I think the younger they are, the less screen time they have. I wouldn't think they should have more than 1 or 2 hours a day, but not together. Maybe 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here. I attended a webinar recently, and one of the speakers taught very young children. And he said, for example, if you're teaching colors, tell the students to get up and run around the house and go and bring something that is green, bring something that is blue, bring something that is yellow when you're teaching the colors, and show it to your classmates. So in other words, part of that time, the student is not sitting in front of the screen. They're going out, they're getting some exercise, they're moving their bodies. So I would say try to design some activities where they're not sitting in front of the computer. Just that's my opinion.
Right. Thank you very much.
Sure, sure.
Okay, thank you. Saida Saidi, could you please unmute your mic and ask your question?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you as well for the organizers. My question is, what are strategies we can implement to keep our students focused? I mean, the one of the main challenges that we're facing, that students lose, whether they are in the even adult, I mean even college students or pre-college students, they would tend to lose or mute the screen, and you are not aware exactly what action he's, I mean, doing on that spot. in that time.
Yeah, I think this is a serious problem. When I first started teaching many years ago, I attended a workshop and the presenter said, even adults, their maximum attention span is about 5 minutes. So you cannot expect even adults to pay attention for more than 5 minutes. So one thing that you can do is to have a lot of variety in the activity. Okay. In other words, do one thing for 5 minutes, but then change and do something else and then do something else. The other thing is to make the sessions as interactive as possible. For example, have people typing into the chat box, put them into breakout sessions. Faisal, I don't even know, does Microsoft Teams allow breakout sessions? Like, I don't even know, but in other words,
Yes,
allow,
there is an
especially,
option. There is an
yeah,
option.
like right now we have 152 people in this session. If I were teaching a class and not a webinar, I would put you in small groups and have you discuss things. So provide opportunities for people to interact with one another. Give them some polls, give them some surveys, you know, where you're asking them questions and you're getting feedback. But don't just have them sitting there listening and taking notes, because they will go to sleep, believe me. So those are a couple of ideas. Try to add a lot of variety to the activity and get them interacting as much as possible.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Dima. Dima, can you hear me? Please unmute
Yeah.
yourself. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am Dima from Lebanon. I'm currently doing a research on the impact of online learning on students' English language learning attainment in secondary level. And I am interested to explore the opportunity of me discussing with you, Professor, separately to ask you about some points on my research regarding the approach and the hypothesis that I have been setting recently.
Okay. Do you
Would
want to
that-
send me an email?
Yeah.
So we can arrange that?
Yes, definitely. I would be very happy if you have the time for that.
Okay, send me an email and we'll try to work something out. It sounds like that's going to go beyond the scope of this session. But yeah, I'll be if you send me an email. What was your name again?
Dima Musa.
Okay, and you're from Lebanon. Okay, I'll be looking for your email.
Sure, thank you so
Okay,
much.
sure. Faisal? Oh, I see Vance.
Hello, Vance. Oh, wow.
I see. Oh, we have a famous person here.
Yes. Oh,
Hello. Yes,
so happy.
Claire. I see Claire. She's there. A famous person is here.
No, you're the famous person, not me.
Okay,
I hope Vance is not asking me a question.
I was wondering if you could demystify teams.
Actually, if you want to demystify teams, you should ask Faisal. This is my first experience with teams, and he has been helping me a lot.
I will contact him. And then we'll arrange for a webinar with him. Oh my God.
Actually, it wasn't too bad today. I got right in. I'm surprised. I'm sorry, I spaced on the time. I just realized you were on. Yeah, I think I saw a Facebook post.
Teams is not too bad. The only thing you have to remember is that it's not Zoom. In some ways, it's exactly like Zoom. In other ways, it's different from Zoom. And I had a few problems, but I was very lucky because Faisal helped me. I think we had 2 or 3 sessions, and my husband helped me, but mostly it was Faisal who helped me. And he is a very patient teacher.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, guys. I could not see any hands raised, I think. But let me ask Michelle. Any questions in the chat box? Michelle Muhammad.
Wait, let me check.
Michelle, can you help me if any questions in the chat box? Yes, there is one hand raised, and Michelle and Muhammad will help me collecting questions from the chat box. Shawqiya?
I just put my email there again because somebody asked for it.
Shawqiya, could you please unmute yourself?
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everybody. I'm Shawqiya from Palestine. Thank you for this nice presentation. I really enjoy it. But could you please send it to us, the presentation?
If you will send me an email, I will send you the presentation.
I'll put it in the chat. Is it applicable?
No, don't.
Actually, I will make things easy, and so you will share it with me. I will email the PowerPoint for them. If you're,
I don't know. No, I don't want to send the PowerPoint to everybody. I want to send the PowerPoint for people who ask for it. So send them my email and say, if you want this PowerPoint.
I'll already shared in the chat box. Clear.
Perfect.
So, okay.
Perfect.
Is this your email, please?
Siskin
CS.
Actually,
I will put it in the chat box, your email.
Yes.
Actually, I typed it wrong.
Wait.
There it is. That's the correct one.
The last one. Yes. Thank you very much.
I'll be happy to send it to you.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
I can hear Faisal's children.
Not with me. Not with me.
No, I
maybe
think it's
with
Faisal's
another person.
Faisal is the person to blame.
Lulia, I think. Lulia,
yeah, thank you. Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank from the bottom of my heart for the wonderful, very helpful presentation. Yeah, with lots of insights, with lots of inspiration. And first of all, I'd like to ask you whether it is possible to cooperate, to invite you as a guest speaker for our following conference, international conference next year about methods of teaching English. Yeah, if you have some time, if you have some desire, yeah, to join us, we'd like to ask you to be our guest speaker. That's Kharkiv, National University, Kharkiv, Ukraine. Yeah, and we would be very grateful. We would appreciate your participation in our next year conference, next year, April 2022. But I know how busy you are, so that's why I'm asking you. Or maybe some webinars, or maybe you have some time to share with us. Like any type of a cooperation would be appreciated.
Okay, I appreciate. I feel honored that you would ask me. If you will send me an email, I'll look at my calendar. I will try very hard to do it.
With great pleasure. Can I send you my email through the chat? Yeah.
No, because I won't see it. There's so many things. The chat is going so fast.
Yeah. So how can I
send me an email?
Okay.
Send me an email, and I promise I'll answer all the emails that I get.
Thank you. And how can I send you an email? I don't have your email, or please tell me where to get it, if possible.
Okay.
Because it's so valuable. I mean, your input, your contribution into the development of language learning is so valuable. Yeah.
Oh, you're very kind. Okay, that's my email. It's csiskin@edvista.com.
That's in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. But Faisal, you're going to send my email out, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
it's okay to.
I will share your email. I will share your email.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, I see it. Great. Yes, so I have copied it, and I'll send you an email, like an individual, if you allow. Yeah, is that okay?
Perfect. Yes. Perfect.
Yes,
you are very
also,
kind.
I sent you an email, please. I sent you now before a few seconds.
And all the yeah, and everybody else who would like to take part in this conference, dedicated to teaching the foreign language.
Could you please share the information here in the chat box so we can share with them, if you don't mind?
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.
Guess what? I have already received 5 emails. Technology is wonderful.
Thank you.
I've already received 5 emails from this group. That's great.
Yay. Inspiration. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let me check now. Any other questions? Michelle, could you help me? Any other questions in the chat box? Muhammad, can you see any?
So far, there are no questions, Mr. Faisal.
Nothing?
So far, there are no questions, only about the email of the presenter and how would they get the PowerPoints like that.
So easy questions, Michelle, all right?
Yeah, I told Faisal I answer only easy questions.
Okay, So they ask for your email address and for selling the PowerPoint free.
The PowerPoint will be free. After they pay $2,000, it'll be free.
Okay, there is, okay, thank you. Sakala, could you please unmute your mic and ask your question? Stanley Sakala, could you hear me, please? I think maybe he has problem with the mic. Sakala, could you please unmute your mic and ask your question? Okay, I think as Michelle and Muhammad told me that there are no more questions. Okay.
Okay, I've received about 15 emails so far, so that's great.
So you're lucky. Okay.
Very lucky, yes.
Okay, I think, okay, Dr. Majtuba, please. Unmute your mic, please.
Faisal, this should be the last question because, as I told you,
I know, yes, because we have a meeting. Okay, Majtuba, could you please unmute your mic and ask your question?
Am I audible? Please let me know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Insightful talk earlier today. I really enjoyed listening to your insights. And one idea that you had mentioned, Professor, was to get the students moving. You mentioned that we can ask them to do little things like getting things of a certain color.
Yes. Well, that's obviously for children. Well, I guess it could be for adults too. Why not? It could be for anybody.
Yes. Can you share a few more ideas like that, that will help us get our students moving so that we can have it more engaging, maybe?
Well, I like to use TPR, which is total physical response. You could, I guess you could have people stand up. If you had a screen so that you could see people's faces, you could ask them to stand up, to sit down. You could ask them to wave. You could ask them to, I don't know. How about having one student ask another student to do something like jump up and down, dance, sing a song, something like that. Show us a picture of your family or something like that. I think a lot of the activities that we use in the traditional classroom, we could use online. It's sometimes a little more difficult. It requires some thinking in advance, but I think we could, many of the games that we use, like Simon says, I think we could use online as well. But definitely we need to have students participating as actively as possible.
I completely agree with the fact that you mentioned that sitting, the Zoom fatigue is setting in, and that is a lot of passive learners compared to how we used to be on campus. Thank you so much for your wonderful insights today.
Thank you for your kind words.
Last written question, and easy, I think, multiple choice.
Okay.
I think how to encourage students to switch off their cameras. I think this is the question.
Why do you want them to switch off their cameras?
I think, Amara, if you can hear me, you can unmute your mic and speak to our speaker, please, to our guest speaker, Amara.
Okay. Good afternoon. This is Miss Amra from Dubai. Thank you so much for your wonderful speech. I would just like to ask, because most of my students are locals, and then it's very hard for them to encourage them to turn on their cameras during the class period. So
well, my question to you is, why do you want them to turn on their cameras? This has been a big point of discussion in the United States on Twitter. And people are saying, why force your students to turn on your cameras? At least in the United States, some students are shy. Some students might be very poor, and they don't want their classmates to see their houses. They don't want them to see that they don't live in a big, expensive, beautiful house. So this is another area of giving students choices. Some school districts have rules and policies, and they say, you must turn your camera on. You will get a bad grade if you don't turn your camera on. But some teachers now are saying, why should we do this? Why should we force students to turn on their cameras? So I agree with you. If I were teaching, I would prefer that they have their cameras on. But I think we have to look at this also from the point of view of the students and wonder why they don't turn their cameras on. And I don't know. Here again, I can make suggestions, but as I said before, my suggestions may not work in your situation.
Yes, you're totally right about being comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
But what if it's like the rule of the school that a student must turn it on, their cameras, but still students didn't follow? But I fully understand why students are not comfortable about it. But how can we at least like encourage them to follow school rules?
Well, you can tell them what the rule is. First of all, you could remind them privately, you know, through a private chat or message, and ask them why they're not turning it on. I guess if they really absolutely refuse to do it, and if the school is forcing this policy, I guess you could have some kind of a reward system, give them extra credit if they turn their camera on or something like that. But I very much believe that we have to respect the wishes of the student. But that's just, here again, my opinion does not necessarily work in your situation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Faisal, I really need to go.
Yes. So, and would like to say, okay, on behalf of English Language Center, University of Technology and Applied Sciences, Oman, would like to say a big thank you for you, Claire, to really give us your precious time, your great presentation, very practical suggestions. And I would like to say thank you for everyone for joining us for this seminar or this webinar, and would like to see you again in our future events.
Well, thank you very much.
Do you want to say anything else?
Well, I wanted to thank you, Faisal, for organizing this and for giving me this opportunity. It has been a pleasure and an honor, and I appreciated meeting all of you. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Have a nice day in advance. Okay, bye.